And now, live from the Tri-Cities of Western North Carolina, this is the Forest City Tribune podcast for Wednesday, July 9th. And now, here's your host, John Thomas Hill. All right, welcome to the show. Didn't really slide that down very effectively. That's the thing about being on a computer. You don't have that physical sliding down like you did back when we actually had to use analog equipment. Get off my lawn! Yes, I'm old. I can remember when everything was done with an actual machine and not on a computer. All right. Now Sarah Palin wants Obama impeached because of the latest immigration situation that's affecting the United States. It's rather stupid, in all honesty. Because, first of all, this is more of a humanitarian crisis involving children in Central America who are fleeing violence by drug cartels, and in any other situation, the United States would be rushing to help these kids. But since they have the audacity to cross our border, along with a lot of other Mexican immigrants who are, let's face it, they're doing it illegal. They're wanting a better life. It's not like they're invading and trying to take over the country, although there are some conservatives who think they're trying to do that to bring up this mythical state of Aztlan. The reality is, it's stupid, realistically. It really is stupid to the way the conservatives are fighting this battle. It's like, here you have this massive humanitarian crisis where it's children, basically. But because they have the audacity to cross our southern border from Mexico, they are basically breaking Holy Writ. It's funny, conservatives tend to have this ability to go, well, the law is the law when it's something they want, but when it comes to the whole separation of church and state, no, we don't want to obey the law there, But the whole thing about impeachment, they've been threatening to impeach the president ever since he stepped foot in the White House. First there was Fast and the Furious, which really wasn't really that big of a scandal. It was basically a government policy that seemed like a good idea at the time, but kind of went really, really wrong. And had it been any other president, it would have caused some trouble, but it would have been an investigation, but there would have been nowhere near any calls for impeachment. It would have been, fire the officials involved, and it would have made news, but you would not have had about this. And by the way, they got Rick Perry on the screen right now on CNN. How classless do you have to be not to shake the hand of the president? I don't care if he's from the opposition party. The fact that you're not even willing to shake the hands of the commander-in-chief, the president of your country, that says a lot about you, not a lot about him. Oh, you're taking a brave stand by not shaking the hand of the president who you think is the devil incarnate, which he's not. There are some Democrats who almost deify Obama. He's a president, okay? And a lot of the reason the Republicans and a lot of the conservatives are raging about Obama is the fact that, the guy before Obama, the Democrats and the liberals really roasted because, guess what? 2 wars, one that we went way too long The other we should never have gotten involved at all. Cost this country close to $6 trillion, depending on what survey you find that, or some report that you find, that somewhere between $2 and $6 trillion, which means it's probably in the middle, upwards like 4, maybe 5 trillion. That's a hell of a lot of money. A lot of money that could have been spent on jobs, repairing infrastructure, and a lot of other things. And then, of course, there was Hurricane Katrina, which was the biggest government screw-up in the history. And they got embarrassed by it. It's safe to say that Katrina led to, in part, the Democrats winning in 2006 because of the tremendous collapse of competency in that situation. And then, of course, we've got the collapse of 2008, the economic collapse of 2008, which was due to the fact that Wall Street was pretty much running by its own rules. There was very little, if any, government oversight of what was going on there. And now you have, finally, we've gotten out of the hole that crisis put us in. But apparently that is not good enough for the Republicans. They want to impeach President Obama for anything and everything. They want to impeach him for Fast and Furious. They want to impeach him for Benghazi, where only 4 people died in a situation which was a terrorist attack. You didn't hear Democrats impeach Bush because of 9/11. Yes, was there a failure of intelligence on Benghazi? Probably. Were there mistakes made? Sure. But there's a big difference between a mistake being made by a low-level official that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had no real control over. Because let's face it, they have a lot on their plate. And even the most capable person in the entire world being head of this country is going to make mistakes. Benghazi was a mistake. It cost 4 people their lives. It was something that should not have happened, but did happen. It happens with every president. There's a mistake that happens. They probably hate. I mean, if you think for 1 second Obama doesn't care about what happened to those 4 people that lost their lives, you're out of your mind. And now 3 of the 4 families of those slain don't want an investigation. This is just a political football now for the White House. Not for the White House, but for Congress. They don't care about the 4 that died. They just want to use it to bash Obama, and that's the problem. They keep talking about impeachment. But impeachment doesn't do anything without conviction. It's like, well, are you going to bring it up in the Senate? The Democrats control the Senate. And even if you win the election this year and take control of the Senate, you're not going to have enough votes, which you need 2/3 majority, which is 66 votes. 67 votes, I think, to convict. You're not going to have that. And even if you were to bring it in the House, you're not going to get enough Democrats to go along to even get impeachment passed in the House. You have to have 2/3 in the House to have it passed. And it was stupid, really. It really was grade A stupid when they impeached Clinton, because they knew they couldn't win the case. Maybe they were delusional that they were going to win the case, but anybody that had a impartial view of what was going on, or at least somewhat impartial view, could tell you, look, they're not going to win. They're not going to convict him. Why bother? It was political theater in 98, 99 when they had the impeachment and then the trial. We all knew how the trial was going to go. It's just basically wasting Senate time. Censor him? Yeah, sure. Clinton lied on the stand. Did it mean that he should be impeached? It was over the fact he was having an affair with another woman. He wouldn't be the first president to be guilty of that, and he probably won't be the last. And it cheapens what is a constitutional process by which we have to remove a president. It's only been, realistically, could have been done once. Andrew Johnson, back at the end of the Civil War, was impeached and damn near convicted because of a political process. Things back then were very out of control, much like they are these days. And, that really wasn't, that was not, the crime was basically that he was the opposition. The only time that impeachment and conviction probably would have happened is if Richard Nixon hadn't chosen to resign. Because both sides of the political aisle at the end of Watergate were ready to impeach and convict. He was done. Nixon was done. He knew it. Otherwise, he would not have resigned. Now, looking back at the Bush years and all the controversies there and all the scandals there and the fact that there were potentially impeachable offenses committed. You look at the scandals that Obama's gone through, allegedly. It's like comparing watermelons to grapes in size. I mean, were there problems? Are there problems with the Obama administration? Sure, he kept Guantanamo open when he said he would close it. He took longer to get us out of Iraq and Afghanistan than probably should have. And now they're saying, well, it's Obama's fault that ISIS is... By the way, ISIS is starting to lose some of that momentum because the Shia are finally getting their act together and going after the ISIS folks. So, yeah, apparently ISIS is starting to lose a lot of steam, But it was Obama. Obama has been, and I hate to use the term because of the connotations bringing us back to slavery, but he's the proverbial Republican whipping boy. If there's a problem, blame Obama. Temperatures are too high, blame Obama. I hate it. I hate the fact that this Congress has done practically nothing. But yet, they blame Obama. They don't want to work with the guy because they feel like this is a guy that won 50% of the vote in each of his presidential campaign elections. Each time he was reelected, he won 50% of the vote. It's a rare thing for that to happen, not just once, but twice. Clinton didn't get that. Of course, you could probably blame that on Ross Perot to a certain degree. That didn't happen when Bush ran twice. He didn't get a majority. So it's important to understand that Barack Obama should have a mandate, but he doesn't. And a lot of this comes back from the fact that during the first 2 years, Barack Obama wanted to play nice with a group of people who had no intention of ever playing nice with him. And this was a critical mistake on Barack Obama's part, because what had happened was, instead of really laying down the law and essentially saying, I'm the president, I'm going to get what I want, Democrats were in control of the House, Democrats were in control of the Senate. He wanted to be more of a statesman president. And we all know what happened after that. Very shortly after he took office, we started hearing about this Tea Party. This supposedly grassroots movement that really wasn't grassroots. It was basically funded by folks like the Koch brothers, who have more money than God himself, it seems like. And it seems like that, to me at least, there is this belief that, well, we have to listen to the dictates of the conservative talk show hosts because they're trying to protect us against the so-called dictator Obama, socialist dictator Obama. First of all, in a dictatorship, if you criticize the dictator, chances are you usually wind up in jail or worse. If he's a socialist dictator, then why do we even have a stock market, let alone a stock market that's reaching record levels? Why do we have corporate profits the highest they've ever been? Some socialist dictator he is. I will admit he's failing at that. But the simple fact is that the media have not been as critical about the Republicans basically dragging the president through the dirt. And, you know, and is it partly racist? It's hard to say it's not. I mean, did they do this during Clinton's administration? To a degree, during the Newt Gingrich years, but when Gingrich left, you started seeing more cooperation. But even during the Gingrich years, they did work together on some things. Here, it's almost as if you dare to work with Obama on anything, even if it's got wide bipartisan support, if you work with Obama on anything, you're dancing with the devil. And that's dangerous, because essentially what it means is the very important thing about governing is compromise, is knowing when to give a little to get a little, to get the best out of the deal as you can. Here it is, basically, it's either our way or no way. And eventually it's going to hurt the Tea Party. Because what's going to happen is that the Republicans are going to lose elections. It could happen this time around. It could happen in 2016, where the Tea Party, yeah, they'll win some elections, but their rhetoric is more and more so way out there that even moderate conservatives are going, you know what? I got to go with a Democrat just so I can get rid of these people. And the reason you see these attacks against Obama is that the Republicans know that the demographics are against them right now. More and more young people are coming to vote every year. And increasingly, those voters are overwhelmingly liberal. And they know, they see the demographic data. They see what's happening. They know what's coming. And instead of possibly changing their policies to try and salvage themselves, and maybe just convincing people, hey, we know a few things. The Republicans are basically owned and operated by very powerful, wealthy corporate gurus like the Koch brothers, like the Sheldon Adelsons, and the Walton family that owns Walmart, and a bunch of others that basically want to create a theocratic oligarchy here with the veneer of democracy to sort of go, well, we're still a democracy. We still have elections. The whole voter ID bill, it bugs me to hell when people go, well, I have to show my ID somewhere, everywhere. I might as well show it when I vote. Have you read a lot of the voter ID stuff? There's a reason why they're not coalescing, merging precincts for your benefit. ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, which basically is a conservative, let's make up some legislation for the legislators, hand it to them, and they'll just pass it. This is one of their bright ideas because they want to discourage minorities from voting. They know minorities will tend to cast votes for Democrats. Instead of trying to win African American votes, instead of trying to win Hispanic votes, instead of trying to win female votes and the young vote, they're trying to discourage them from voting at all. They're cutting early voting. They're cutting voting precincts. And the only reason were able to pass it is it's called a voter ID bill. Because allegedly we have a big fraud problem, except you're more likely to get hit by lightning than actually see voter fraud take place. Of course, there's some voter fraud here, but that's like saying, well, every once in a while you're going to get a hailstorm, break a window on a big building. Just the right angle, right trajectory, boom, it's going to break. Have you done a Google search to see actual confirmed cases of voter fraud? You could literally almost count them on your on one hand. And generally, when they do happen, guess which party is the one that's usually involved? It's the Republicans. So they want to get rid of voter fraud, but the people that are committing it more often than not are Republicans. And I think you start to understand that the Republicans want to muddy the water. They want to confuse you and think that Obama is some sort of dictator. When in reality what he is a president who's trying to get a progressive agenda through in a Congress that's essentially controlled by corporate America. And they also have their little entanglements in the church because that's the deal with the devil that the Republicans made 3 decades ago, almost now 4 decades, which is basically, hey, if we want to win, let's go to the white churches and start stoking up abortion, and now with gay marriage, gay rights. I mean, I could go back in history and tell you more about the grand old Republican strategy in the South, which turned what was a Democratic South into a Republican South. And a lot of that was essentially, in some cases, quite racist in part, because they figured the Democrats were becoming more and more progressive, more and more liberal, and the Republicans keyed on that. Here's the crazy thing. There was at one time in this in this country that the Democrats and Republicans weren't really polarized. There were conservative Democrats, liberal Democrats, moderate Democrats. There were liberal Republicans, liberal I mean, liberal Republicans, conservative Republicans, and moderate Republicans. Now, that's almost entirely, if you're a Republican, you're a conservative automatically. The idea of a liberal Republican is almost like military intelligence. It's an oxymoron. But there are still conservative Democrats, because the Democrats know they got to win in the South. In some cases, they got to deal with senators whose agendas aren't necessarily playing well with the views of progressives in the North and in the Midwest and in the West. So that's the problem. I just had a breaking news thing that no big deal. It's about LeBron James. We may do an RSN radio podcast about that if the story gets even more intense. But let me start to wrap up the show by putting it like this. Impeachment should be something that you might see once a century, and hopefully not even that often, where a president crosses the line so blatantly that both sides of the political aisle decide he is no longer, or she is no longer, fit to stay at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And the time has come for him or her to leave. And since they will not resign, this is the constitutional way to remove them from office. Now, it all started with Clinton and the cheapening of the impeachment process to basically make it political theater. You notice they've not actually brought any impeachment charges against him. Boehner knows what will happen. Boehner knows that if they bring up impeachment charges against the president, it'll fire up the liberal base. They'll get a wave of fundraising. Nothing will happen. It won't even get out of the House. And even if it did, it wouldn't go anywhere in the Senate. And the whole fact is that it's been a complete waste of time. An absolute, utter waste of time. But as things go, waste of time are part of political theater. That's why we don't have improving infrastructure as part of the nation's agenda. That's why we have, instead of actual constructive work being done on Congress, it's basically grandstanding. So, and it's discouraging voters. And when you discourage voters, it hurts democracy. So, anyhow, that's the show for today. I wanted to get on here and run my mouth a little bit about it because I'm getting tired of this whole impeachment talk when there's really nothing to it. So for everybody here at the Tribune podcast, good night, good luck, may the good news be yours.